you. Hello to all of my wonderful friends in Switzerland. Thank you so much for giving me a few minutes to speak to you on this 10th anniversary of this wonderful project. A big shout out to you, Lisa, and Heinz, and Roland, and Carl, and Andreas, and all of my friends in Switzerland. You've just done wonderful work, and I can't believe it's been 10 years. I just wanted to remind us how this all got started. It got started back in 2009 in my country, Canada, when my organization and our major union, public sector union, were fighting a very bad government in our country that was wanting to force municipalities to privatize their water services. No finances from the federal government unless you brought in a private company. And we decided, instead of being against that, we wanted to be for something. We wanted to have a vision of what we wanted instead of what we didn't want. So we came up with this concept of blue communities, where a municipality would make the pledges basically not to privatize. That was our major issue at the time. But of course, protecting water, the human right to water, dealing with the plastics issue, we brought a lot of the others in. And it took off really well in Canada. There are many, many cities in our country that have become blue communities. And then in 2012, I went to Bern, visited Bern to speak at a conference, and I met the former mayor Chaput, and I loved him. And he was so wonderful. And I told him about blue communities, and he said, if we became a blue community, would you come back next year? And I said, yes, let me think about it. Right. So I came back the next year. And of course, as you know, the city of Bern, the Reformed Church, and the university, Bern University, became blue communities all together at once. And we had wonderful events to celebrate this. And since then, under your leadership, Lisa, the blue communities in Switzerland has just blossomed. I mean, we just turn, people say, where is it really doing well? And it's Switzerland, because as you know, it's not just municipalities, but it's moved to universities. And we have a whole bunch of universities in Canada suddenly coming on board. So Roland, you're going to be really happy to hear this. Faith-based groups, as we know, the World Council of Churches and so on. And we're looking to think about ways to get this into schools for younger kids. So it's really a way of thinking about how to think about what I call thinking blue as well as thinking green, because you often get scientists or reporters and people just saying, well, there's a terrible drought there, it's caused by climate change. And I think maybe not. Maybe it's because you took down the forest there, like the Amazon, or maybe it's because you over extracted all the groundwater, or you poisoned all the groundwater and nobody can access it. So it's really important for us to separate, to an extent, the green from the blue, and to think blue. I talk about having the world turn, think blue, one institution, one school, one person at a time. I just want us to remember that we're dealing with what I call the perfect storm of the declining freshwater sources, the deepening inequality within our communities or countries, but between them and among them, and then the rising water rates. And we do have a human rights crisis in not just the global south, but in many countries of the global north. And I would remind us that 1/4 of the population of the world doesn't have access to clean water, and 1/2 of the population of the world doesn't have a place to wash their hands with soap and warm water. They don't have proper sanitation. And these are stunning numbers and totally unacceptable. So I just wanted to say congratulations, and I love you all so much, and you give me such hope. And I want to say that we're all watching what's happening in the Middle East with just such horror and such sadness. And I don't know how you all feel, but I feel pretty helpless, and some days hopeless. And as my friends in Switzerland know, I wrote a book on hope, and I'm taking deep breaths, trying to remember all the things that made me hopeful in that book. But it will end. That the bloodletting will end. It will not be an easy thing, but one day it will end. And meanwhile, all of us have to be doing something positive. my definition of hope is holding on to and protecting all that is good for future generations and the planet, knowing that you can't control the outcome. We're not in charge of the outcome, but you do something anyway. You put out your hand and you take action. You touch the universe where you can make a difference. And you have to have some faith that many, many others are doing the same thing. And for me, that's Blue Communities. It is taking a positive step, a positive vision, a positive action. And we have to counter using hope and using, yes, grief, but rather than despair, grief, and dealing with the grief, or what we call wise hope, and knowing you have to face the situation firmly. But we take a step forward. And what you guys are doing with Blue Communities in Switzerland and what's happening around the world with similar projects has got to move us forward, because we have whole generations of young people growing up, and they have to see visions of hope as well as the visions of the horror that we're seeing now. So I wanted just to share that with you, because I think we all have to take a deep breath and say, yes, things are very worrisome, but this, as Greta Thunberg said, she was 11 when she learned about the climate crisis. She went to bed for 2 years. She couldn't even leave her room. And she said the moment she started doing something, got out of bed and went down to the parliament in her country and sat there and created this youth revolution, the despair lifted. And she said, hope is action and action is hope. And that's what Blue Communities is about. So I send love to you today. I send congratulations.